Sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
Not now, Siri.
Okay.
Hello, and welcome back to a series where we'll be looking at the highs and the lows of making an album. It's going to be a fun ride, I promise. Oh, I've shot this video so many times. In early 2019, I decided that I wanted to make a concept album, and I specifically wanted to make this concept album in Japan. There's a few reasons for this. One, I used to live there in my early 20s, and I'm rather attached to it as a place. Two, it's the place where I first started to make music, and I'd always wanted to do a project there if I could, especially now that I have a lot more experience than I did when I did live there back in the day. And three, not gonna lie, I partly went back for the food, and also I wanted to see all of my friends there as well. So this is definitely an album where the main themes are time and place. All of this took place in October 2019 on a 3-week-long trip in Japan. I had Kyoto as my base, so a lot of the music was made there. And I gave myself a few rules as well. One, I could only spend one day or evening on each track. I would start a track and finish a track in a day. Obviously, I never went into this trying to make final tracks. That's what I'm doing now. I just wanted to capture the moment of the day audibly and make something which I could listen to later and be like, okay, yeah, I know the kind of vibe you're trying to go for. I can build upon that. Two, for drums and percussion, I have to use sounds that I recorded in Japan. So I took a field recorder and I pretty much recorded my surroundings every day with the hope that I could take all of those recordings and use them to build drum kits, as well as use them for background noise in the tracks. So yeah, all of the drum kits need to be made from the recordings I made in Japan. The final tracks have to link back to October 2019 when I was actually there. I can't just take the perfect kick that I fancy from the internet. And rule number three is that the final tracks have to include the tracks that I made in Japan somehow. I made all of the tracks on the EP1 mostly, with some help from Logic. And the final tracks, you know, they can change a lot, but they do have to include bits of the tracks I made on the EP1 somehow, in some way. Again, linking back to time and place. I've lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Time and place, OP1, time and place, OP1, link back. Oh yeah, I can take those tracks and distort them beyond recognition. I can chop them up, but they have to be in the final tracks somehow. It all needs to link back. So I came back with 10 drafts, and in this series, we're gonna basically go through them and build them up into final tracks. I've already decided on a track order. A lot of it was based on music theory and what track would go into the next smoothly. If you'd like a video about that and like about how I put that together, let me know and I will do a video just dedicated to that. I don't really have time for it in this one because it will make it so much longer. Welcome back. It's a new day. So I've been working on track number 1 of the album recently. And before I show you what I've been doing to it, I want to show you what it was like when I first made it in Japan, and also just give you some background on it. As well as being the first track on the album, it was the first track that I made in Japan. I made it on the second day, the day after I arrived. That day I woke up at my hostel. I packed my OP1, I packed my field recorder, and I decided that I wanted to walk the philosopher's path, because the whole time that I lived in Japan, I never did it, even though I lived, I don't know, about an hour away. So I thought, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I've been thinking about doing it for too long. I went to the start of the walk, or at least I think it was the start. I kind of made it up as I went along. And about 3/4 of the way, I sat down on a bench and I got out my field recorder and basically just recorded my surroundings for about, I don't know, I guess it was about 3-5 minutes or so, just to make sure I definitely got something that I could use. It was the end of September and you could still hear cicadas, which was really cool. And you should be able to hear them chirping in the background. The other thing is that while I was sat on the bench, there were people walking past all the time. So I got some really good, like, close-up sounds of people's footsteps on the gravel, or like, it was just like a slightly rocky path. So you get some really nice, like, crunch sounds. It is a nature walk, but the city is still in the background, or at least it's the outskirts of the city. So occasionally you can hear like a car, or I think at one point there was definitely something going on behind me. Obviously I didn't see it, but I remember listening to it and wondering what it was. And I love using a field recorder. It really makes you listen to your surroundings, and it's definitely a moment of, it's always a moment of calm and just taking everything in, which I think is why I remember it so vividly. I mean, it helps that I also have the audio. That could also be why I remember it. Yeah, that probably helps, having the recording. Yeah, forget what I said, I don't have an amazing memory. So next I got out my EP1 and I started to make the first track. I think the first thing I did was record this little, I've labeled it marimba. I don't know if it is a marimba, but let's say it's a marimba. I love this sound. It has so much feedback and so much, like, delay, making this really long, sustained sound. Yeah, I remember that I really liked playing with that sound. It was really cool. Next, I laid down some bass, although it wasn't really bass. It's basically a vibraphone pitched down loads, making this little mysterious sounding bass line. The way I was feeling must have been, I don't know. I feel like this draft sounds like a detective movie soundtrack, especially with the drums, which I'll show you in a second. But yeah, that bass line kind of solidified that detective, mysterious vibe in this track. And I don't know where that came from, but I think I was feeling, I don't know, maybe I was feeling mysterious that day. And yeah, speaking of that sort of detective movie sound, the percussion I recorded on the EP1 pretty much, I don't know if you guys have watched Rick and Morty. I will just say now, the Rick and Morty episode came out after I recorded this, but if you know what snake jazz is, that I pretty much made snake jazz with that percussion. Honestly, I don't think that percussion is going to make it to the final draft, but who knows, maybe it will. So I finished up the walk and I went back to my hostel, and in the evening I set myself up a little workstation. I got my laptop out and I went through what I had made that day and put them all into a project in Logic and just laid it out. And I decided to play around a bit more on Logic and maybe add some instruments to it from there. And I really like the sections that I added on Logic. They really added something more. So I think the first thing I did was add this harp sound. Hang on. And I added some delay to it to give it that rhythm. And that's basically become one of the main riffs of the whole song. So that part is really important and I really like it. And I'm probably going to keep that just because it's been such a instrumental, no, not that kind of instrumental. No, I meant fundamental. It's been such a fundamental part of that song. It's like the backbone of the song. I can't believe I mixed those two words up. After that, I added another bass from Logic. Oh, is it from Logic? I think it might be, yeah, it's Contact. Both the harp and the bass are from Contact. And yeah, it's a really simple bass line, but it's moody, it's deep. And that again, like really set a new tone for the track that I liked. From there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure about this direction. Whereas when I'd been making the EP1 track, I was like, not sure about this. The next bit I added was a kick. Again, it's really simple. It's just on the beat, just sort of pulsing its way through the song, which I like. Next, I added this cymbal, which again, really simple beat. Lastly, I added a shakuhachi, which I think was from Contact as well. I think all of the Logic instruments are from Contact. I'll double check that in a second, but I'm pretty sure they are. And that shakuhachi is not really a melodic part. Again, it's kind of building on the beats. And I'm going to have to check what I did with it because I really like it. It's like a really icy, airy sound, which I think again gives the mysterious nighttime vibe. Mysterious, rainy, watery vibe. I just checked the shakuhachi. The reason it sounds like that is it has a lot of reverb on it. The reverb room is a cathedral. So that's why it's got that. When I've made songs in the past, usually I just go with what sounds good and what, I want to go with instinctually. But because this is a concept album, I wanted to take a far more planned and researched approach. Not just because it's a concept album, but just because I thought it would be a fun challenge as well, like something new for me to try. So what I'm trying to do with all of these tracks is basically familiarize myself with them on the piano before I even touch them electronically. Especially this song in particular, I've never been attached to its original structure. So in terms of changing around the structure, I feel like for this one, I can be really flexible and really experiment with something new. So something I really wanted to try with this one was modulating the key a bit. So the original key of the part that I wrote on the OP1 is in G sharp minor or G sharp Aeolian. But the Logic parts I added later, especially the harp part, I think it's more of a B major or B Ionian. And just in case you don't know, G sharp minor is the relative minor to B major. They use the same notes, they're just expressed in different ways. So that's the original structure. In the new structure, I added some changes. The first thing I tried to do was modulate it from a G sharp Aeolian or G sharp minor to a G sharp Phrygian. But because I did this during the harp section, which I think is more B Ionian, I think it actually came out more B Mixolydian. B sharp Phrygian and B Mixolydian, again, they use the same keys, they're just expressed in different ways. So there's only one note that has changed, and that's the A sharp, which has been flattened to a A. I actually did want a Phrygian part in there still, just somewhere. So I went back later and added this part, which I think has characteristics that sound more Phrygian. Next, I added a harmonizing part, which goes over the main section of the song. So I noticed that I hadn't been using the E much in the song, even though it is in key. I thought it might be interesting to add a E Lydian section over the top. And yeah, I like that section. I think there's a nice contrast between that and the main melody that's happening underneath it. So when I was playing around with the composition of this track, I actually did write another section which didn't make it into the current draft, but I was thinking, because the first song that I'm working on now is in the same key as the last song of the album, I might use that section that I've written to sort of link them together and loop it back. And yeah, and just see if I can make a seamless album in that way, which it might work. We'll have to see when I get to the last track. Yeah, that's just an idea I had because I like that section. I just couldn't really fit it anywhere in the song as it stands now. For the last section of this video, I'm going to show you guys what I've been doing with the percussion for this song. So I've been working with these really cool glitchy edits of my field recordings. And credit for the glitchy edits goes to Critical Downtime. He's a friend of mine and he made them for me because he's an absolute dude. I was telling him about how I only wanted to use my field recordings in order to make the percussion for this album, and he offered to do some sound designy stuff with the intention of, you know, I could take these glitchy edits and then either chop them up to make percussion or use them as textures for bass lines. So here are some of the chops I made with them. Next, I got this basic beat going. And then I added this one later on. To be honest, I'm not sure if either of them will make the final cut. I think it's going to take a bit more experimentation until I'm fully happy with the beat. But it will definitely do in the meantime, just to get the rhythm and the flow going. Ideally, I'd want to make a beat that, you know, evolves a lot more. Right now it's really repetitive, but it serves its purpose for now. It's all about just trying to figure out what kind of sound palette I want for this song. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up for now. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I'm new to YouTube. I don't have an audience here yet, so it would be really helpful to me if you left a comment and just tell me what you liked, what you didn't like. I tried to do this in a way where I didn't go too much into detail so that, you know, I don't bore you guys, but I also didn't want to just sort of skirt through everything. But I don't know, let me know what you would prefer, if you prefer it to be more detailed, less detailed. Yeah, if you'd rather I went into like a deep dive into things, or if you just want a general overview of what's been going on. If you like the video, please consider subscribing, and also if you like Instagram, you can find me on there as well. For the next episode, I suppose we'll just continue polishing this track. And yeah, I'll just update you with what's been going on since now. Okay, I shall see you later. Oh yeah, before I go, Critical Downtime wanted me to read out this statement regarding his involvement. One moment. Let me just get it up so that I make sure I say it correctly. So, apparently, he would like this to be my statement. Critical Downtime is a massive inspiration to me and a constant point of focus to aim my achievements towards. I am in awe of his technical prowess, and I list him and I list him up there. And I list them up there with the greats such as the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, and the Crazy Frog. He added at the end, yeah, don't do anything too over the top, just something like that. Goodbye.